What's going on, guys? Austin Zabak here, back with another YouTube video. And in this video, you're going to want to stay to the very end, because if you've ever wanted to get into real estate, okay, particularly real estate investing, then you already know there are so many different ways to invest into real estate, and there's so many people on YouTube talking about it, okay? I mean, you can wholesale, you can flip properties, you can buy properties as rental properties, you can buy Airbnb properties. I mean, there's a million ways to make money in real estate. And I'm not gonna lie to you, all of those are actually phenomenal ways to make money with real estate, okay? But in the video today, we're gonna be talking about two different properties entirely that I've bought, okay? And we're gonna be breaking them down side by side, showing you literally all of the numbers, the location of each property, everything about each individual property, the renovations that we did, and I'm gonna be letting you decide by the end of the video what property you think we're gonna be keeping as a rental property and what property you think we're gonna flip for a profit. And this is very important for you watching because, I mean, at the end of the day, if you've ever wanted to house hack or you've wanted to get into real estate on any level at all, everything that we're gonna be talking about essentially in today's video is relevant to you. I mean, you're gonna need to know how to look at different properties and run the numbers and look at the different locations and everything like that and be able to determine what will be good for rentals, what's good for Airbnbs, what's good to flip for a profit, what's good to live in yourself, what maybe you don't even want to touch with a 10-foot pole. So without further ado, let's just jump right into the video and get started at property number one. And if you wouldn't mind, really quick, just taking a second and just smashing that like button for the YouTube algorithm. So we're at property number one right now, and then we're gonna go to property number two, and then we're gonna break everything down for you. And by the end of the video, you're gonna have a perfect understanding of everything that we're talking about, okay? So make sure you stay to the very end. So we're here, property number one, and basically this is a property that's right by ASU, it's right by a big park, it's right by a bunch of shopping. It's actually in a phenomenal area in Tempe, Arizona that's going to appreciate massively over the next 5 or 10 years. It has great rental rates, it's in a great school district, and overall, it's just a phenomenal property. The purchase price of this property was $267,000. We only put about $30,000 into renovations into the property, and there's not a ton that we had to do. We had to change the flooring out, do all new carpet, new paint, and everything like that, but it overall wasn't a very complicated renovation project. The ARV of this particular property, or the after repaired value, is about $360,000. So now that we talked about the property being in a great location, let's go ahead and hop over to property number two. So now we're here at property number two, and basically we're in a great location, but the location's just not quite as good as the location that we were just at a minute ago, and we're gonna talk more about that here in just a little while and how that'll affect long-term appreciation and kind of how it overall affects the value of the property. Now, we do have a little bit higher values in this area. The rental rates aren't as good, and again, we're gonna talk a lot about that here in a little while. This is a way bigger project though, and we had to spend a lot more money on the renovation of this particular property. We're not even done with this property yet. As you can tell, there is still a lot of renovation being completed on this particular property. So the purchase price of the property we're at right now was $250,000, so pretty similar to the last one, about $17,000 cheaper, but the renovation costs of this particular property were $100,000, but the ARV of the property we're at right now is about $500,000 or $500,000. Now this property is in Phoenix, Arizona, so again, not quite as good of a location. It is really good for jobs and stuff like that, but there's really nothing in this area that's like super appealing about the location other than the fact that it's centrally located. So now let's just go ahead and jump over to the whiteboard. We're gonna break down all of the numbers, and then you're going to tell me what property we're gonna keep as a rental and what property we're going to flip. And then again, by the end of the video, you're gonna understand exactly how to analyze a deal, and you're gonna need to do this so many times in the future if you wanna get into real estate investing on any level. So let's just go ahead and jump right over there. So now that we looked at the properties, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna break down all of the numbers so you can fully wrap your head around everything that you just looked at, and then you are gonna get to decide what you would do if you were me, because again, one of the properties we're gonna keep as a rental property, and the other property we're gonna flip, and we're gonna make a profit right now. Okay, so property number one, we had a purchase price of $267,000, okay? And our renovation costs on this particular property were roughly about $30,000. So all into that property, we were about $297,000. So now we're gonna talk about ARV, okay? And ARV, if you're not familiar, stands for after repaired value, and all that really means is that once you do all the renovations and you add all the value to the property, what is it now worth? What would it appraise for when it's all said and done? So basically, we're gonna take the purchase price plus the renovation, and then what value did we create by renovating the property? And we're gonna compare our new property to all the properties in the area, and this particular property is worth about $360,000. Okay, so that is our ARV of that property now that we renovated it. So if we were to sell it for $360,000 right now, I'm just gonna do some simple math so you can visualize exactly what we would make, okay? I'm gonna multiply this number by about 8%, and that's because we have realtor costs, we have holding costs, and we have closing costs with doing the property, okay? So we're gonna literally do the math in real time, and we're gonna go 360,000 times 8%, and we get about 28,800, okay? So 360,000 minus 28,800, so that gives us $331,200 minus our initial 297,000. So minus 297, that gives us a potential profit of $34,200. So if we were to go ahead and just list that property on the market right now, we would potentially make $34,200. So depending on what we refinance the property for, and we could refinance it if we were to keep the property. I just want to paint the picture just in case we were to keep the property. Again, we could refinance it for the ARV, or we could just refinance it for what we owe on the property, okay? Depending on if we wanted to do like a cash out refinance or what we wanted to do. I'm gonna try to keep it kind of simple for the video, just comparing the two properties, okay? So let's just say our principal, our interest, our taxes, and our insurance, if we were to refinance the property and keep this particular property as a rental property, let's just say that our PITI would be about let's call it $1,400, okay? That's all said and done. That's how much we would be paying monthly on the property. Now, we would probably have a little bit of equity built into that property, and we would definitely be able to get that equity out at any given time. And obviously, it's going to appreciate over time, and we're going to get all the other tax benefits that come along with owning real estate. But again, we're keeping it real simple for the video, and now we're just going to assume that our rental rate in the area would rent this property for about $2,000 a month. So we have a potential cash flow, which is basically our rental rate minus our total principal, interest, taxes, and insurance of about $600. Now that is money that we would put in our pocket every single month, on top of obviously paying down our mortgage over time, which is building even more equity, on top of the property appreciating over time, building even more equity, on top of, again, the tax benefits that come along with owning real estate. Moving right along to property number 2, okay, we checked it out. We had a purchase price of $250,000, okay, so $250,000. Our renovation costs were significantly higher on this property, putting us at $100,000 worth of renovation, okay? I know, a bunch of money, right? We did a lot to this property, and you probably saw a little bit of the before and a little bit of the after a little while ago. So again, a lot of money there. Now, the ARV of this property, however, is a lot higher. The ARV of this property is about $500,000, okay? So there's quite a bit of meat on the bone with that particular property, property number 2. Doing the same math we did a minute ago, we take our $500,000, our ARV, times our holding costs, our closing costs, and our realtor costs if we were to sell the property right now, and we get about $40,000, okay? So about $460,000 minus, okay, our $250 plus our $100, so our $350,000, okay? So we're looking at a total potential profit of about $110,000. So just comparing the two properties side by side, if we were to go ahead and flip one of the properties right now, I mean, what property does it make more sense to flip, okay? Our potential flip profit right now on this property is $110,000, and on property number 1 that we looked at is $34,200, okay? They were both pretty similar in purchase price, way more renovation costs on house number 2, but again, house number 2 had an after repaired value significantly higher than house number 1. Our principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, again, for the sake of the video, there's a lot of ways you could refi the property. You could refi it for $500 and do like a cash out refi. Our loan to value ratio is definitely gonna be good on both of the properties. We could refinance it for just what we owe to our hard money or private money lender, or depending on if we may be paid cash. Again, I'm gonna try to keep it pretty simple for the video, okay? I don't wanna overcomplicate it because it's honestly not very complicated. I promise, like, it's not complicated, okay? You're gonna have to trust me on that. But our PITI, for the sake of this video, is $1,500 a month. Now, believe it or not, house number 2 is not as desirable as the neighborhood for a rental property. Remember, house number 1 was right next to a university, right next to ASU, which has like 80,000 students, which we talked about a little while ago. It's in Tempe, Arizona, and the rental rates in this neighborhood, believe it or not, are way more desirable. You're looking at a $2,000 a month rental rate in that neighborhood compared to a $1,900 a month in house number 2. It's in Phoenix, it's just not as desirable, okay? So we're only looking at a cash flow, okay, I'm just gonna do CF, of about $400 a month, okay? Which again, comparatively to this property is not as good, and the properties actually costed us more money. And it's worth a little bit more money at $500,000, okay? So we could flip this one for $110,000, flip this one for $34,200, but this one we actually cash flow less money in the long run. It's probably not going to appreciate quite as fast because the area is just simply not as desirable as this particular property. I could see this property, house number 1, being worth $500,000 in like 5 to 10 years, okay? Because it's going to appreciate very quickly over time. So it should be obvious at this point, we're gonna be keeping house number 1 as a rental property, okay? It just makes all the sense in the world. We're going to cash flow the most amount of money. We're gonna build the most amount of equity. It's going to appreciate the most over time because it's in a way better area. We wouldn't have made as much money on a flip anyways, so ultimately it's going to be better. And not to mention, this house is actually smaller, so it's easier to maintain if something breaks or something goes wrong. It's just way easier overall. In this property, we're gonna take our money, our 100 grand, and we're gonna get out of the deal, okay? And we're gonna take that money and we're gonna roll it into another property like house number 1. So just understand that in real estate, you're gonna be looking at properties all the time, right? You're always gonna be looking at the next deal, whether that's to live in personally or to keep as a rental or buy as an Airbnb property or whatever the case is. Then you've really got to look at all the numbers and you've got to break it down and look at the different locations and what location is better and which one is better for school districts and crime rates. And, is one in a floodplain? Is one, where there might be hurricanes or tornadoes? Really breaking everything down and thinking everything through and thinking it through, in that moment in time, like what are you going to do with the property right when you buy it and what do all the numbers look like associated with that? And then looking at it in the future and really asking yourself, what does it look like in the future? And where is it going to be in 5 or 10 years? Are people leaving that area or are they moving to and flocking to that area, okay? So guys, again, my name is Austin Zabak, and if you're still watching to the very end of the video, I really appreciate you, like more than you'll ever know actually. So if you wouldn't mind just taking just a quick second and just smashing the like button for the YouTube algorithm, it would actually mean the entire world to me. And also comment down below. I'd love to answer any questions that you have. And guys, thank you so much for watching the video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.